Hey guys and gals, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk about Little Witch Academia. I think we're on episode 16. There we go. So, episode 16 of Little Witch Academia was overall different. It was a more fantastical episode this week. It was a more chill episode. It was more of an episode where we can just kind of truthfully turn our brains off, because these kind of episodes becomes less about the story and the logic and more about just like the fun of the adventure. So it's a bit more of a fantastical episode. Now, what this ultimately translates to in a technical fashion, in terms of the technicality of the episode, is that the episode becomes a lot more flowy because we're going through different scenes at a much quicker pace. And truthfully, these episodes tend to be a bit funnier, either with visual gags or with Akko's dialogue, because Akko's dialogue becomes a lot more wittier when it comes to reacting to things going on and just her shenanigans. And here's where I guess her character traits of being kind of anti-establishment when it comes to the witching world, those traits really come out more when it comes to her general lack of patience for the order of things that are supposed to be done. Like, we saw it when she knocked over the snow or where she blew away the leaves. Yeah, you know, she just doesn't have that sense for order and ceremony, and truthfully it looks like they don't really need that sense either, because it all works out in the end. Regardless, these episodes give a bit more give a little bit more room for comedy, and give a little bit more room for some things that like legitimately make me personally like smile and giggle. So overall, in terms of an entertainment aspect, the episode does really well. In terms of the visual aspect, when we're having the more fantastical episodes, the visual aspect, or the style that in which Little Witch Academia is drawn, is changed up slightly. So it becomes a bit more like Looney Tune-ish in its ways. Even when you look at the final transition out of the episode, it's one of those circles that just zooms in on Akko, and it's just a fade to black with the circle. I don't know what it's called in technical terms, but the fade out is like very reminiscent of American animation. So overall, those kind of segments and techniques pop up in these type of episodes, and it reminds you that Little Witch Academia is also a very visual experience. Now, the animation gets looser, but looser with Little Witch Academia doesn't usually mean it's going to look bad like it might in other anime, because Little Witch Academia has such a simplified art style in general. Having those looser moments of looser animation just makes it seem more flowy, and it doesn't really compromise anything to the integrity of the art of the characters. So it ultimately just turns into a very enjoyable watching sequence. Now, we're gonna talk in depth about some stuff, but let's just get the funny gags out of the way first. Let's all appreciate that Akko did in fact get on her knees, put a jar next to a reindeer's butt, and collect poop from that reindeer. Let's all appreciate that she did do this, and she did it in the most funny way possible. Let's all appreciate that she nagged a Yeti, and the poor Yeti, and then had a chat about who cares what the internet thinks about you, and then just totally, you know, rocked out with a Yeti. And let's appreciate that she overall was very patient. Oh, and that a reindeer doesn't like her. You know, it was a very fantastical episode of Little Witch Academia. So okay, let's start more serious talks. We don't really have much to talk about for this particular episode, because there's very little gravity to the situation, even though like there's this green man disease, but we know Akko's gonna solve it. Oh wait, that's one more thing we have to appreciate. Let's appreciate that the circumstances for this to happen were acknowledged by Trigger as being extremely infinitesimally small. Like, man, this is magic. When you have to take into account, you know, the alignment of the moon, when you have to take account the reproduction rates of the herrings, when you have to take into account so many random things, and then it all gets triggered by just a bunch of pies. Yeah, man, when I appreciated that. That's magic. That sounds like magic. Like, yeah, all these random, seemingly unconnected events cause the green man disease to pop up. That was hilarious. I enjoyed that. You know, at that point, it's Trigger saying like, guys, we just need this to happen. It's just gonna happen. Sorry, guys, it's just gonna happen. We need this to happen. It ultimately tells you that these episodes of Little Witch Academia really should not be taken seriously, besides the point that they're trying to convey. And that's something that's prevalent in the series at some points. It's just at the end of the day, you don't really have to worry about what the plot's doing to make things happen. It's just the point that the plot's trying to convey is the value here. So, you know, funny. Anyway, before we start talking about more serious stuff, now that I remember, now my memory's getting jump started. Last episode, in the comments, someone commented, "What was your name, good sir?" Let me go check it up real quick. Oh, Frozen Death Knight. So yeah, this is relevant because in this episode we did get a sliver of a scene with Croa, and it was showing that she is experimenting with emotions, and she comes to the conclusion that anger produces a lot of magic upon conversion. You know, that's a usual trapping. Usually when people are looking for power, they find that anger is one of the most, and then usually we're going to be circumvented and we're going to be told that no, it's actually love that gives the most powerful emotions. It's actually love. Anger is a good second rung, but love gives a lot of long-lasting, you know, general power. And we see that kind of confirmed with Akko and just with the shiny rod and the way it responds to Akko. But again, it's showing where Croa is going with things. And the reason I wanted to talk about Frozen Death Knight's comment from the last video was because we were talking about the morality of Croa in particular. And you know, overall, we all agree it's very creepy, but specifically, was what Croa did villainous? You know, like, is that a mark of villainy? And it gets really sketchy here because Frozen Death Knight in that comment specified that most likely she breached a lot of ethical concerns. She breached a lot of laws, most likely, in doing that. But breaching laws doesn't, or breaching ethics doesn't necessarily mean you might be a totally bad person. The problem here is we still don't know how utilitarian Croa is. And when it comes to utilitarianism, this is a school of thought, this is a philosophy, it is a ethical theory for deciding decisions. Utilitarianism, whenever I have to try and explain it to someone, it's really the school of thought that justifies bad actions as good. So if we were to take an example from history, I think I am quoting this right, Winston Churchill had an ultimate choice when it came in one of the wars, and he decided to give out information to make it seem that the populated areas were a distance away from where they actually were. So what ended up happening, and again, I might be misremembering this, but the overall idea is there. He made it seem to the enemies that London was actually at a certain location compared to where it actually was. So what ended up happening is that instead of the capital getting bombed, the outskirts towns, the small villages, the towns that had a less population, those towns got the higher risk of being bombed because of the shenanigans that he pulled. So utilitarianism is this general philosophy that involves, you know, making a bad choice seem better in comparison. It's a very limited moral thought, and ultimately it's one that justifies bad actions and paints them as slightly more moral than they are. This is where thoughts like killed 3 people to save 100 pop in. You know, this is very utilitarian, because at that point you start talking about what is the weight of 3 lives versus 100. It's all a very dirty moral theory. But the point is, we don't know if Croa is operating under that particular moral theory, because if she thinks that there's something else going on, if she has an ulterior motive that's slightly redeemable, Croa doesn't exactly fit into the straight up simple villainy. Instead, she starts fitting into more of an antagonistic role with a noble intention, right? Again, like, this doesn't change the fact that the things that she's doing could be painted as bad. Like, she has broken the law in this case. Most likely she's broken the law. But whether or not to call her a straight up villain, you know, it's just a bit early for that. If we were to play by the alignment system that Dungeons and Dragons has made popular, you know, the chaotic evil, chaotic good, lawful evil, Croa would probably fall under chaotic neutral, because we just haven't seen to what extent she wants to accomplish things. And neutral is usually a perspective that's assigned with doing potentially bad things for a very good outcome. So we'll have to keep that in mind. Like, now, sorry that I bored you guys with a very broken up, explanation of utilitarianism, but it's just to explain that even now with Croa going and looking at these emotions, like that was a very scientific way of approaching that. She went through the emotions, and it's implied that she went through the spectrum of emotions, and she just made the observation, anger does a lot more, and it's a lot more sinister looking. So we'll have to see where exactly Croa's research goes, but the point is she's getting actual measurements out of this stuff. So far, it's not unethical. The research itself is pretty okay. The only thing that we really have to look at is the fact that Croa is unethical when it comes to interacting with other humans. Woo, that took way longer than I thought. Other things is that in this episode, Akko learned the value of patience. As we're speaking of commenters, we have to also speak of a commenter, Jiko. If you read the comments, you've probably seen his comments. He's pretty active in the comment section, and his comments are truthfully sometimes very wordy, and maybe most people would not want to read it. But Jiko has been saying that there is some connection in Little Witch Academia between the 7 sins and the 7 virtues. He has a theory on that, but right now, when they said patience, patience is specifically a virtue, and now it's been name dropped. So at the very least, you could look at his comments and you could agree that when he was talking of the 7 virtues, he is most likely correct. Especially now because the value that Akko learned in this episode was all about patience. And you know, it's actually very interesting. Now we're going to talk specifically about the episode. No more talks about the commenters, but it's funny because the episode is saying that it's about patience, and 2 steps of that process involved patience, right? The snowfall and the leaves, but it's counterintuitive to the message because ultimately Akko hurries up the process and kicks over the snow and it blows away the leaves. She didn't wait at all for those, and she didn't get chastised for that in the grand scheme of things because things still worked out. The patience thing only popped up when she was working on the thing at the end, and even then it seemed like she just kind of blew that up. You know, like the shiny rod did its thing when Akko was screaming the word over and over, and it just hastened the whole process. So it's very interesting because thematically the patience thing isn't addressed at all. Akko acts counterintuitive to the patience thing, and she still gets rewarded. So that's an interpretation that you could take from this episode, and it's odd. Again, it's a fantastical episode of Little Witch Academia, so you don't really have to worry about it. It's just the overall point is that Akko should learn to be patient. But at the end of the day, the thematics of the episode don't lead to that conclusion at all. Like, if anything, the thematics of the episode lead more to do things in the most practical and efficient way possible, which, you know, there's a disconnect there. So very interesting stuff. Now let's see other things I wanted to talk about the episode. I liked it. I liked that we had a Slice of Life episode. Oh yeah, man, you remember the first ending that had the girls in all these different shots doing different things? I would love to see that happen now. Like, that ending is my favorite just because it spoke of the adventure that this series could have. I would love to see the girls go with Ursula to Stonehenge. That'd be awesome. And now that we're visiting people's home lives, I wonder, are we going to see Susie's home life? Are we going to go see Akko's home life? It'd be cool if they have a break and they all just go to everyone's houses and we just learn more about the characters. That would be nice, because learning about Lot's parents, that was really fun. I enjoy Lot's dad. He's pretty cool. He fell on the old lady, then Lot's mom comes out and like knocks him over. That was hilarious. Overall, though, it was a pretty fun episode of Little Witch Academia. That's really what you should take away from this. This is a fun episode of Little Witch Academia. I don't think we should look at it too seriously, besides the main point that Akko got the 4th word, and that Akko also told her friends about it. So, closing thoughts. Well, there was an alternative perspective that was presented to me by Jiko, the commenter. One that if we were to take the episode as a more meta perspective, when we have the Yeti sequence where the Yeti is talking about how things people are saying online are kind of bothering him, and Akko's ultimate rebuttal is just screw whatever they say. The perspective is this might be what Trigger is saying, like this might be the actual criticism that they're hearing for Akko in particular. So Akko's rebuttal is ultimately their answer to that whole shenanigan that's going on with people criticizing Akko's character. At which point, you know, that would make sense because the Yeti thing was kind of like out of left field. We didn't expect a Yeti to be conscious about what people are saying about that particular Yeti online. So that could be what's going on there. That could be a rebuttal from the creators just saying that they want to have fun, they're going to do what they're going to do, which would be an interesting perspective to have. But okay, I'm running out of time, so let's just end it there. We're done for the day. Thanks for watching, guys, and till next time, I hope you have a great day. Leave any comments down below if you have anything to say. But yeah, till next time.